Hello, Shelby. How are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yeah. I just went for a coffee run at Tim Hortons.
Aha.
Yeah.
It's a good way to start a Friday.
Yeah.
hmm What is your drink of choice?
I drink tea.
Okay.
Yeah, I drink orange pico.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's just the people I've been talking to, but seems that more people are drinking tea compared to maybe coffee. That
Yeah.
seems to be a little more popular than it used to be. Hello, Vivian. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am well. Thanks for asking. People are up bright and early.
Hey, I'm not the first one.
You're slipping, Amy. But you gave us 2 minutes to talk about you behind your back in front of your face. All right.
Oh, good, good, good.
Yes, yes, yes. So, as the saying goes, oh wow, you people are on time today. So that must mean you're anxious and excited to be in project management class, right?
Or it's Friday and we just want to get it over with.
Oh, if I had feelings, you might have just hurt my feelings. It's supposed to be, Mr. Roberts, we love your class. This is the highlight of our week.
It
Yeah,
is the highlight. It's Friday.
exactly. As soon as you stop talking on Friday, it's the highlight of our week.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, as the saying goes, the sooner we get started, the sooner we get done. All right. Hello, Jennifer. And was that, who else is here? I think I've greeted him. Sean. Right. All right. So you should be able to see on the screen chapter number 5, doing cost estimates. And we'll go through some of that today. So there is some, this is not like heavy duty accounting / math stuff. This is just being able to get some idea of how to estimate project times and project costs. This is something you would be involved with, not just your accounting people, but you'd be involved with all the people in the organization. The accounting people just cost it out. But what they need to know is, how many plumbers do you need? How long do you need the plumbers? Are there different types? Do you need journeyman plumbers or apprentice plumbers? And then to try and get an idea of what the costing is going to be on that. If you're, doing a project that involves plumbers, obviously. So in this case, chapter number 5, you're just trying to approximate the time and the cost. And even though your estimate will be wrong, it's still better to come up with an estimate. If you have a project to go on a trip, you need to try and get some idea of roughly how much you think it's going to cost. Otherwise, you go on the trip and all of a sudden, let's say you plan a trip for a 2-week trip to somewhere. 3 days into the trip, you run out of money. It's not a very good job of planning. Do you need contingency funds, which we'll talk about? And, do you have a backup plan or a reserve? But you need to not only forecast the cost, but you need to forecast the time. Going on a 3-day trip is different than going on a 2-week trip. Or just even going overnight to, in you guys' case, saying going into Winnipeg. Or someplace nice, like Brandon. Okay? All right. So I take shots at Winnipeg, by the way, every chance I get. But there's a balance. And I mean, somebody can go on a trip for 2 weeks and spend minimal amounts of money. And then somebody else goes on a 2-week trip and costs quite a bit more, depending on flights or how they get there, what type of accommodation they want. Lots of possibilities. It's not just, oh, I'm going here for 2 weeks. Well, so again, but you do need to get some sort of estimate of the time. And from the time, you can get the idea of the costs. So you have from the work breakdown structure we dealt with in chapter 4, that will give you all of the tasks that you need to do. One of the things, if your work breakdown structure is incomplete, you forgot to do something, like have the building inspected, you still need to do it. So that's one of the reasons why cost estimates tend to be inaccurate. The costing isn't necessarily the issue, you just forgot to include things. I'm baking a cake. Oh, I forgot that I needed butter. So now I got to run out to the store because I didn't realize I needed that. That's extra time and extra cost, especially when you miss things. So we're going to also talk about the two fundamental ways of estimating, top down and bottom up. They both have their pluses and minuses. Now, you need to identify the responsibilities. We did that with the camping example where we assigned responsibilities. You can use several people to estimate, which has its pluses and minuses. And you need to identify what would be normal conditions and perhaps a little bit of the extremes. Nobody can go out and predict how much it's going to cost to the penny. Although in some cases, if any of you have been fortunate enough to go on a vacation where, and this is why people like it, go on a vacation that's an all-inclusive. One of the nicest things about an all-inclusive, I've been told, is you know your costs. Every time you have a meal, you're not taking money out of your pocket. Every time if you have a drink, you're not taking money out of your pocket. So you know the costs before you get on. And you're not walking around with your hand in your pocket or reaching for your wallet all the time. In fact, you wander around with no wallet. All right. You also need to build in contingencies. And I'm going to talk about that because I have a different approach to contingencies than the way most books present it. And I just want to talk to you about it so you can roll it around in your brain while you're sipping your Tim Hortons tea this morning or rolling out of bed late like Amy did. Okay? Hey, come on. We're just having fun here, okay? All right. Hey, I got to tease you, Amy, because you've been the first person in class, I think, every single session so far this week. Or, sorry, not this week, but this term. So, it was...
I know, I purposely waited 2 extra minutes.
2 extra minutes. Shelby gets the prize today. She was the first person in class. And she's bright and lively because she's sipping her Tim Hortons tea. Orange Pico, right, Shelby?
Yes.
Aha, so it's got caffeine. So I'm assuming it has caffeine, all right?
Yeah.
All right. Top-down estimates. Those tend to come from management or senior management. One of the advantages of those is they'll say, here, class, here's so many dollars. So you don't have to justify it. They'll say, here's so many dollars, go and put on a fundraiser. The problem is they don't have in-depth knowledge of how much it's going to take. It's just a set amount. And we know what tends to happen. They don't tend to be perhaps particularly generous. Rarely will it be like, here's my, oh, we don't need that much. It's just an arbitrary amount that they have. We need to spend $5,000 on doing a fundraising project. The advantage, though, is you don't have to go to them and ask them for $5,000. So it's like the analogy is this way. Let's say let's say your parents or somebody says, "Here's $100. Go and have some fun." Right? Well, maybe the $100 is enough. Maybe it's not $100. Maybe it's not enough to do certain things. They don't ask what you want to do and build it from the bottom up. So the bottom up approach is the other way, to say, okay, what do we want to do? What would be fun? Oh, fun would be going, remember in the old days when we used to be able to go to a restaurant and then go to a movie afterwards? You remember those days? Many, many moons ago. But the people at the front line, or the people doing the bottom up estimates, know the details. But sometimes then they have to go and say, well, for us to go out for movie and drinks and dinner, it's going to be $125. And so there's and they don't have perspective on the large organization. Like, I still get that. I don't know how things are in Manitoba financially, but here in Alberta, because of and it's been going on for now 6 years, there has been significant impact to our economy because of the reduction in oil and gas prices. And cutbacks were coming where staff were not just getting no raises. I haven't had a raise 3 years, if not 4 years. And I know that the schools are actually cutting staff. And everybody here who's doing what I do expects the provincial government to come along and say, oh, not only are you not getting a raise, we want you to take a reduction in pay. And so, yet some of my colleagues just don't get it. They just think that there's unlimited money. Oh, let's pay for lunch so we can have some people in. No, we can't afford to pay for lunch anymore and spend $300 or $400, $800 providing catered lunch. Those days are not possible. They don't get the big picture perspective on things. So here's some advantages and disadvantages of each one. So I'll suggest that you might want to have this handy when you go and do your test. Now, just making rough estimates is a good idea, either and top down or bottom up. And also not just the cost, it's also the time. And you try and get, if you have the ability to do both, which sometimes you don't, sometimes managers will just say, for some of you who go into HR, here, we need to do training on what would be a good example these days about toxic work environments. Here's so much money. Here's a project for you to work on. How are we going to train the employees, and not just the employees, but how do we go into the students? How do we deal with student issues about, say, toxic classrooms or things along this line? I found it interesting. I know I've told you this before. When I had the interview, they asked me about, in particular, a racial slur. And I don't know whether you people, when you were going up and down the hallways, I don't know the culture at Red River, whether there's a lot of swearing, which can make people feel uncomfortable, or areas like that. Or even this, okay? The ladies in class will probably resonate with this more than perhaps the guys. But the guys can understand it from the other point of view. So I want you to picture this. There is a trades building, because I know Red River does trades. There's a trades building at SAIT. In that building, there is an open area. Okay, well, it's enclosed, but you know what I mean. It's not regular ceilings. It's sorry, it's 2 stories high, and the physical structure matters. In the winter time, that walkway area people would go through it to go to the bus stop, which was on the street, because of course it's warmer. So people would walk from the campus, and rather than walking outside around the building, they go through this walkway. But the trades area is very male dominated. All right? So guess what happens when a female walks through there? You know what happens. And the point that I'm trying to make with all this, if you think where was you going with this? The point that I'm trying to make with this is if you are given monies to develop to make it more comfortable, say to educate women and to educate men, that's some of those behaviors are inappropriate. Where do you get that money from? Management just says, hey, Jen, here's 10 grand, make it happen. And Jen looks at us, I need more money than that, or that's only going to do part of the job. So that's the disadvantage of top down. But if you go to management with your ideas, if you're in charge of this and you've seen this and you want to do a project on this, then you might go to management and say, we need 35,000. And management says, here's 17. So you don't get what you want. So you try and reconcile the two and negotiate. And again, here's again some of the methodologies. A consensus. We'll agree we can do with 20,000 for that project. All right. Here's how you do the apportionment. You have a total project for $500,000, 20% to design, 30% to program, 40% to testing, and then documentation and actually producing the item. So, it's just a way of doing it as a percentage. So that's an apportionment way. And that's actually in your assignment, by the way. They use that method. Okay. Another way to do it is simply take the number of inputs and multiply by the complexity and the averages and the highs. And it's sort of a little bit like the weighted scaling model. I don't believe this model is in your assignment, but I know that the previous one is, where they do it as a percentage. So the previous one, you're going to be given a certain amount of money, and you're just simply going to multiply. $500,000 times 20% is 100,000. Oh, all right. And maybe I split it out further, but that's all that you do. It's a fairly simple way of doing things. And then again, you multiply the numbers by the complexity, the counts, the inputs, etc., and you get a total score. All right, but I'm pretty sure that's not in your assignment. If it is, we'll go over it in more detail. All right, top-down estimates. You can see some of the differences here. The preparation costs tend to be less than the preparation costs on bottom up because there's fewer people involved. They tend to be less accurate because they're not as detailed. They don't get into the nitty gritty. And then you can see again that if you used your work breakdown structure, that would be a bottom up approach. And again, if you do apportionment, here's $500,000. Here's $20,000. Do with it, make it happen. All right. Direct costs. Direct costs this is a bit of an accounting concept in the fact that right now, I, as your instructor for this course, am a direct cost. So I'm the labor that Red River College is paying to teach this course. The materials that you need, the textbooks, those are direct costs for you as students. The equipment. Now educate me on something, class. The equipment. Are you required to have a laptop? Do you normally take that to the classroom back in the old days when you went to the classroom? Is Red River a laptop program?
No, you're not required to.
Okay. So but obviously all of you now that you have to take courses online, or you are taking courses online, you need technology. Did anybody, just out of curiosity, did anybody go out and upgrade their equipment or have to buy new equipment because you're now taking your courses online? Or before you maybe go to the school and use their computers? No?
I had to buy a laptop.
Okay. Sorry, that was you, Jennifer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. One of the schools I teach for in northern Alberta, some of those, I don't know you people and I don't know your situation, but I know that some of those people are from, well, let's put it this way. Some of the students don't even have internet at home. So what do you do? I mean, you people obviously have access to internet, which is something we just kind of, in today's world, kind of take for granted. I mean, there's now situations in the United States where students are taking courses online and they don't have internet at home because they can't afford it. They're going to like literally McDonald's. This is free Wi-Fi. It's not always, we have to be sensitive to things like that. Somebody who's trying to make a better life for themselves, who's in, say, a lower socioeconomic category, and they're being denied that this whole pandemic has hit the lower socioeconomic category harder than it's hit the upper, the wealthier people. And that's one of the things, like having a laptop. That costs Jennifer extra money that Jennifer would probably have liked to have spent on something else or just kept in her piggy bank. Right? But it then became a necessity. But though that would be an example, Jennifer's new laptop would be an example of equipment, direct cost that's related to, bought it for the purpose of taking this course. Overhead are things like my supervisor at Red River College, which I think probably most of you know, guy, I believe his last name is Moffat, he's the chair of this program, and the IT people and the admin people, Darlene. And I imagine a lot of you have met these people because it's a smaller school. And even the president of Red River College. So those are overhead costs. And then you have general and administrative things. So, and we're going to keep it nice and simple, people. You have direct costs, you have overhead, you have general and administrative, and a nice simple cost that you're $80,000. So whatever they're paying me, there's other costs for the school to offer this course, like the license for Learn and WebEx. I'm not sure if WebEx is free. I don't think it is. And then you have the overhead, and then you have, no, we don't have a profit, so we don't have that. So, but then you can see this is where you get your total bid. So a nice simple calculation. You don't have to go into labor hours and material costs and equipment costs, etc. Now, you can see during the project there's a range. I know that a lot of students wait to the last minute to get their book. A lot of times one of the things that you wait for is, let me ask you this. I know one school that includes in their tuition is the cost of the book. Does Red River do that? Or do they say, here's the tuition, you buy your books separately? I'm curious.
Books are separate.
So books are separate, which is the norm. So then sometimes I would think that a lot of you have said, am I really going to need this book for this course? Because sometimes we've gotten burned, have we not? We bought a brand new textbook, and never we don't use it in class. So with this course, you at least need access to Connect. So refining the estimates is just that. When things go wrong, Sometimes people are overly optimistic, especially with time. When I teach this, and I also teach it in supply chain, people have a bias. That bias is to underestimate how long it's going to take them to do something. What that means is you might put it in the other way around. They're overly optimistic. If I said to you, how long is it going to take you to do something? You calculate it in your head. That number that you have in your head is usually about anywhere from 15 to 25% low. So people have a bias to underestimate. One of the biggest reasons projects are late is the fact that people don't factor in what are called allowance factors. Fatigue, vacation, weather, on and on. There's many reasons why something will be delayed. And so in this particular case, here's a suggestion for you. When you sit down and say, I think it's going to take me an hour to do something, add 20%. I'm going to give you an example of a person who was in my class who did projects all the time. This person was in my class and he was a painter. So people would say to him, paint a room. He would give them an estimate. And when he was first doing it, he'd look around the room and say, this is going to take me 5 days to do. And then he found out that he found out the hard way. The hard way was this. He found out that consistently it was taking him, and he found out this, about 20% more time than he had originally estimated. So he's working a 6th day. He's working that day for free, and his customer is upset because the customer thought the project would be done in 5 days and made arrangements to move the furniture back in or whatever. And now you find out your project's going to be a day late, and you say to them, I'm not paying you any more money, so lose. He found out about 20%. When I teach this in supply chain, we actually have a formula. It's called standard time. And that formula adds, depending on but the average, the rule of thumb is 20%. So if you're working on a project, and this came up recently, about a year ago right now, I was working on a project for SATE, who had got a contract from United Arab Emirates. What they wanted us to do was develop 2 streams, retail and supply chain. They wanted courses, but they use a very different educational system in United Arab Emirates. It's based on the German education system, not the English system. So we had to try and make it specific to United Arab Emirates. So my colleagues and I were dealing with the team that was helping develop this, and I was at the meeting, and people say, how long should it take a student to do this? How long should it take a student to do that? Et cetera, et cetera. And my colleagues were going through the numbers, and I'm looking around, I says, you people do realize that we need to add 20% to these numbers. That if you think it's going to take a student 5 hours to do something, it's more likely going to take them 6. And then I explained to them what I just did to you. Because we didn't factor in, oh, you need to go and eat. Oh, you need to take a break. So whenever you factor something in, when it comes to time, I strongly encourage you to think, and you can do this in your personal lives, add 20%. That's one of the reasons why projects tend to be late, because people don't build in that 20%. All right. Okay. Not really going to deal with mega projects. And that's the end of chapter 5. But I want to go through some of the exercises in chapter number 5. by the way, because this course has the pre-done videos. Are any of you? And I don't care. It's your whether you do it or not. It's not for marks. I don't get upset. Are any of you listening to the lectures or going through the lectures that I have on YouTube on this? I'm not going to get upset if you say no. I'm just simply asking, are you finding them useful, useless?
I found them useful. I just did it like once though, and it helped me, but I'm gonna do it for the quiz.
Uh, that's also what I'm expecting, okay? Yes, that does not surprise me. And I was looking at, not for this course, but for another course, my statistics course. I was looking at the number of students who've actually watched them. I could just see the numbers, and it's like, oh, okay. Uh, not that many have watched it yet, but they've got a quiz coming up in 2 weeks. So what do I expect to happen? Oh, there'll be a spike. All right. So I'm totally fine with that. I mean, people have other things to do. So, we'll get to it later. And that typically happens. That's the norm. Students, just before the test, all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of questions and can I meet with you outside of class time and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to give you, let's see, chapter 5 review questions. All right. I'm going to give you a few minutes to go through this. And one of the things I'm going to do a little differently with this, because some of it's a bit more technical, not this discussion and cases, is I'm going to post the answers, my instructor notes, as we talk about them. All right. But I do want, just be honest with me, people, because that's all I care about. Okay. I don't care whether you have or haven't. I'm assuming most of you have not read case 5.2. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. That's totally fine. Because there's absolutely no point in going over case 5.2 if nobody's read it. It's just a waste of time. And that's fine. It helps me. So in this particular case, all right, what I would like you to do, and I'm going to give you some class time to do this, is I would like you to focus in on, I'd like you to read the case 5.2, all right, and yes, yeah, just read case 5.2. It's a nice short little case, and in particular, we're going to go through that. I also want you to pay attention to and we'll go through it, but specifically the exercises, the calculating the direct cost of labor, in particular, and why don't I give you 17 minutes to do that? And we'll come back at 10:02. So, all right.
We're doing the case 5.2, you said, on page 163?
That is correct.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you about 16, 17 minutes to read it, go over it, maybe make a few notes. And then what I'm going to do a little differently because it's more numeric is I'll post some of the quote suggested solutions or possible solutions on the screen, and we can talk about them. So just kind of get a feel for it. All right. So we'll see you in a few minutes then at 10:02. All right. Despite demands to the contrary, I have returned. All right. So, as I mentioned, because it's a little more technical or a little more detail oriented, I'm going to show some of the suggested answers that we have, at least at this particular point. So here's some of the, again, these are, I'll post these before your quiz. Your quiz or your midterm, sorry, is coming up in a couple of weeks. And so yeah, it's coming up in about, what, 3 weeks or so? And in this particular case, you also have some assignments, which you can do today after complete. I wanted to get chapter 5 done a little early to give you some extra time to work on it. And because you still have 2 more assignments, and I'm going to be very flexible about the due dates on them. Because it doesn't actually give me due dates in the course for which is nice for chapter 5 and 6. I thought we'll get some of that work out of the way and class time, and I'll come online and help you with your assignments rather than just doing them completely on your own time. So in this particular case, we have some cost estimates. And by the way, what I'll do is in a couple of weeks, I'll do a review or a tutorial for your midterm exam. Having accurate time and cost estimates obviously is important. You may have had some of your classmates who didn't get as far as you have in your education because they underestimated perhaps the cost. And some of you may be taking the program that you are because you like the time. You don't want to commit yourself to more years than what you've already committed yourself to, at least at this point. Some of you may be considering taking additional schooling or formal schooling after you're done your program at Red River, but that's down the road. So you need to get somewhat accurate time and cost estimates. That's difficult to do. If you don't get the time estimate right, your costs are going to go over. So the costs are a derivative of the time quite often. You need the estimates to make good decisions. Like how many of you does anybody in the room care to share that school is costing you about what you thought? Or is anybody saying, oh, I didn't realize there's all these extra costs to going to school? Is anybody in that situation? There was things that surprised you? Are you saving some money by not having to go to the campus right now?
Fortunately for me, all my schooling was paid for by the Métis Federation. So
Okay.
that was like a huge, I guess, burden lifted off my shoulders with cost.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But definitely, I didn't realize how much I would be spending on little things like groceries and like internet and things like that.
Right. Those things build up, right? Even some supplies that you needed, like a calculator, I'm assuming perhaps, or something along that line.
Printer ink. Oh my God, it's expensive.
Oh, it is. Yes. Yes. Printer ink is very expensive. And I know I used to work in the computer industry, and I asked customers how much they would print. Sometimes it's cheaper to buy a laser printer, even though it's more expensive, but it's cheaper per page after that. But yeah, printer ink is like major expense. I'm sure you sat there sometimes. Do I really need to print that page? Do I really need to do that? Yes. All right. And then again, estimating cash flows. About, okay, you've just a couple weeks ago, we're now at the end of week 4. It's going by quickly because as paying for tuition. And then, of course, in a few months, you're going to have to pay tuition again. And so it's not even. It's not like you're spending the same amount of money every month. So you need to do cash flow projections. You need to understand that, of course, for students, basically the start of September and the start of January are very expensive months. And also what happens is usually a lot of students will work from the period from May to August. So those are good months for cash flow. And yeah, so the cash flows go up and down. So here's again a summary of the differences. That the macro or the top down just sort of uses, estimates. Like, I mean, they're both estimates, but estimates in the sense you can see square footage, weight, ratios, things along that line. They don't get into the nitty gritty detail of it. They just might say the average, if you say, how much does it cost to go to Vegas? Well, that varies greatly. Do you go and you stay at the hostel? I've had students go to Vegas and they stay at the Vegas hostel, which I don't know is like $20 a night or something like that. I don't know. It's pretty cheap. And then you go and stay. I went there one time with a friend of mine and he insisted it was $800 a night is what it costs. Like, we split it, but still, it was ridiculous. Anyways, so quite a difference. So you say, how much does it cost to go there? And very different. But in the bottom up, they break it down, estimate, like they go down into great detail. Okay, you find out what the cost to stay at a particular hotel are, what the airfare is. Even the airfare can vary a lot depending on when you go, especially coming up, like say with the Christmas season. Depends what days you go. You people all know this. The other thing too, and I did mention it before, but I want to mention it now. It's sort of related to the top up and bottom down approach. Has to do with contingencies. You should build in a certain contingency. There's two ways to do it. One is to add a contingency to each one of the line items. Add contingency to the labor, add contingency, say 10% to the labor and the materials, etc. So I'm going to give you an example. All of you in this course, I'm going to give $100 to. That's your budget for the project. But I'm going to tell each one of you, so you've got $100 to spend. That's your budget. I'm going to tell each one of you that you have a $10 contingency or 10% contingency. So as long as you keep it under 110, that's fine. How much money do you think people are going to spend? You're told your budget's 100, but I'm also telling you have a 10% contingency that you can go up to $110. How much money are you going to spend? $100 or 110?
110.
You are absolutely correct. A lot of companies still put and add the contingency. It's fine to calculate it, but as soon as you tell somebody you can go 10% over budget, they have a tendency to go 10% over budget. The way that you should do it is the way, well, let me rephrase this. Here is a suggestion for you. So we have 9 students in this course. We have a total budget of $900. Rather than giving each budget item, each individual, because we're going to assume all 9 of you are doing different areas of the project, I take the $90 contingency and I put it to the bottom line. So if Chantel or Shelby needs extra money because something has gone wrong, they need to come and they need to explain it and say, I went $7 over, I need another $7. Okay, Chantel, why? Well, and then Chantel goes through and justifies it, says, okay, here's the $7. I'm going to give a sort of a personal example, which you might find kind of amusing. Many years ago, my ex-wife and I and my former stepson were in the mall. And he wanted to buy something, and it was like $1 or $2. The smallest bill that my wife had on her at the time was a 20. So she gave him the $20 bill. Any guesses as to how much money she got back?
Probably 0.
As close to 0 as he could get it. So he said, I forget what he wanted to buy. It was truly dirt cheap. It was less than $2. And he came back with a couple coins in his pocket. And my ex said to him, well, where's the rest of the money? I spent it. If you give somebody that extra 10%, there will be a tendency, especially if they don't have to come back and justify it. Well, I can go 10% over budget. So it's almost treating it like, a lot of people will treat it like, I don't have $100 to spend, I have 110. And should everybody, Viviana and Regine and Sean, should everybody go to 10% over? No. Some people might actually be under budget. Not everybody should go over time and over cost. Some people should go under. Remember, the 10% is an average, and there are 3 levels of it. We don't get into it in this course, but there's actually 3 levels of contingency. There's usually a 10%, like a 5 to 10%. Then there's like more like, 15%, and then there's one that's like 30. It has to do with how certain you are of the costs. So there's even levels to it that can get fairly sophisticated. The point that I'm trying to make for you to consider, and you might want to consider this again in your own personal life as well as in your business life. If you are working for a company and they are adding it's very common for companies to add a contingency to each budget item. That's fine for calculation purposes, but then they should take that entire pile of money, in my example, the $90, and you should have to go to the project manager or senior management to get approval to spend extra. Just like you said, you people know this. Some of you in this room, this has happened to you, especially if you have like students who don't quite get it. It's just next time you're out with your niece or your nephew, and they say can I get something? And it's like $4 or $5. Give them a 20 and see how much money you get back. You'll remember that. All right. And some of them said, yeah, I did that. And yes, so it's a different way to think of the contingency. A, you don't give each person the extra, the authority. And B, not every budget line item should go over budget. If you plan to take a trip, has anybody actually sat down and come up with a budget or a time estimate when you've gone and done something? It doesn't have to be a trip. It could be anything else. Have you ever sat down and worked it out, how much something should cost?
Yeah, I've tried, and it's always turns out to cost more than what I originally budgeted.
Yes. And 2 reasons potentially for that, Amy. That's not a flaw in your budgeting process. Remember, I told you that 70% of major projects fail. The reason for that is 2 reasons. When you go back and look, there's 2 reasons why your budget turns out to be underestimated. One is you forgot something. All right? So if you're planning a wedding, oh yeah, we forgot about the liquor license. Oh, that was $150 for the liquor license, and on and on. So if you forget something, then you still have to pay for it. And also, as I said earlier today, and I will harp on about this again, people have a natural bias. Maybe you don't, but people in general have a natural bias to underestimate the length of time it takes to do something. And when you underestimate the length of time, by calculation, you have then underestimated the amount of money you spend. So if you think it's going to, Those people that you know that are always running late, make a suggestion to them. They're not, some of them aren't trying to do it deliberately. Maybe sometimes they are, but just make a suggestion to them. Maybe your time estimates are wrong. Add 20% when you planned. Like tonight, I'm going out with a friend of mine, and I think it's going to take, once I pick her up, maybe half an hour to get from her place to where we're going. So I budgeted 45 minutes. All right. Just because there'll be something. There'll be an accident. Hopefully not an accident. There's construction on the way. I know that. And if we get there a little bit early, then fine. We'll just, right. Now, the calculations for the costs are actually fairly simple. I know that in your assignment, when I looked at it the other day, and remember, I'm going to give you class time, and I'm going to help you with it, people. I don't know what the approach at Red River is, but it seems the approach is similar to SATE in the fact that it's not like the university. University, here's your homework, see you later. No. What we're going to do is this. I'll help you through the assignment. So in this case, I hope this is fairly straightforward. You've got an hourly rate, all right? You've got the number of hours given to you. You multiply that, and that becomes the direct labor. The overhead is 40% of the direct labor costs, all right? So the overhead is not included. So in this case, you need to take 40% of the direct labor costs, which is $2,400, and add it to the $6,000. So that's part of your assignment. I looked at it. You just have to calculate, just like if you needed 100 kilograms of something and it's, $7.50 each, that'd be $750 of materials. All right. I'm going to skip over this complexity model. To be honest with you, I've never seen it used. And if we do need to use it, do it in your assignment, when I look at your assignment again, then we'll go through it. It's not math. It's actually fairly similar to the weighted model that we just did chapter or two ago. So I'm going to skip over that for now because I want to talk about something fun, a trip. So what did you come up with, people? What did you come up with? Any comments or thoughts or ideas on this trip? How are they going to make a decision? What factors do you have to, what costs are you going to have?
For my costs, I had said that I would do a cost estimate for each trip that they were thinking of. So like a Europe trip, a Vietnam, and a South Africa trip.
Okay.
And then I said I would factor in all the costs like food, travel, hotels, hostels, travel insurance, emergency funds, and a miscellaneous fund, and then like costs including for flights.
Okay.
And then I would add on an extra amount of maybe like around $500 to each trip to allow room for cost changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was it.
Okay. That's excellent. Who would like anybody care to add? That's very well done, by the way. There's two ways to do the contingency fund. One is to just do a dollar amount, and one is to do a percentage as a comment. So you're right. Just scrolling down here, you see in fact, you went into some more detail, but airfare, or you might even just consider travel. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to go to Europe, but once you get to Europe, it's actually quite cheap for both airfare and train. Train is, by the way, if you ever get a chance to go to Europe, has anybody had a chance to do any much traveling? I know younger people perhaps haven't. Just a thought for you then. Just a thought. Is if you do go on a trip, especially to Europe, trains are a wonderful way to travel. They're fast. They're 300 kilometers an hour. They're very frequent, like say every hour, or depends on the route and stuff like this. They're way more comfortable than a plane. I'm assuming that all of you have been on a plane at some point. They're kind of like sardine cans. All right. But you're right. Lodging, food, discretionary expenses, want to buy some tourist items or whatever. And then a contingency fund. And you're right. Visa, vaccinations, things along that line. If given more time, I'm sure we could come up with a really extensive list on it. But having some sort of contingency is important. So here's just a suggested thought. They actually got the airfares from Kayak, which is a wonderful site. Have any of you ever used Kayak?
Yes.
Okay. What did you use it for, Viviana?
I think I was just checking about flights and stuff. I can't remember.
Okay, that's fine.
Exactly, but yeah, I used it before.
It's a very good website. It's brings in like for not just flights, but it does for like flights and hotels and things like this. And you can it's got a matrix where you can have a flight plus or minus 3 days leaving, plus or minus 3 days coming back, showing you the options for direct or one stop or two stops or whatever. And it's also, even though and you can get it in Canadian dollars. It's very accurate. So where's the best deals? So here's what they did. They broke it down into the various buckets or the various categories of airfare, etc. Contingency, they just put $350 as a contingency. And whether it's fluke or not, in this particular case, they're all about the same. They all total out to be the same. So they've kind of got it down to either South Africa or France. So the two highest are Spain and Vietnam. Although let's face it, when you're going on a trip like this, remember they're estimates, people. So I would disagree with that. And unless, you say we don't want to spend more than $3,500. Yeah, well, if any of you, I look at it this way. When I go on vacation, maybe it's just me. How many of you feel like when you, even if you just have taken a short weekend to, like I said, Winnipeg or something like that, or gone somewhere, which I'm assuming all of you have at some point. How many of you feel like when you go on vacation, money's like water going through your fingers? It just seems to, like, how much money did we spend? How much money was lunch? Sorry, who was that?
Viviana, I just said yeah.
Viviana? That's how I personally feel. It just is like water. It's just, yeah. So, yeah. All right. So you need to decide safety. That's these days you need to pay attention to COVID, right? You need to identify the weather. If you're going someplace, it's not just the fact that it's warm. Some places, has anybody lived in a place where there's like a rainy season, like where you would go and say, don't go in the month of whatever because it's really rainy?
I lived in BC for about 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from mid-April to, I don't know, pretty much half the year is just rain.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ease of getting around, where you're going to stay. Some places you may need a vehicle. Some places, again, when my experience going to Europe, one of the things I love about going to Europe. There's many things, but one of the things is the public transit there is phenomenal. It's absolutely blows the doors off any North American city I've ever seen. The subway or underground, it depends on the city. Fast, clean, cheap, because that's how a majority of people get around. You know, when or in certain cities, first place I ever went to in Europe was Florence, Italy. People get around on bikes or little motor scooters. They don't have a subway. You can literally walk everywhere. The city is fairly flat. So you're not going up and down hills. Like, it's fairly flat in certain areas, okay? And language. Do we have somebody in class who speaks a language that is not English? Does anybody feel I can speak another language? It's a factor.
Spanish.
You speak Spanish?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So you've probably heard this joke, Viviana. What's the Spanish word for water?
Agua.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Mexican word for water? This is a joke, okay? What's the Mexican word for water? Tequila. Right? That was the first time I went to Mexico. That's what they told us on the bus. Hey, everybody. People say agua. No. This is Mexico. It's tequila. I love tequila, by the way. Right. All right. Yeah. Do you have contacts in other countries? Okay. And visiting people who can help you save money there. Don't go to the tourist areas. The tourist area, as we kind of all know, the tourist areas are more expensive. Your meals are more expensive. Your accommodations are more expensive, and things along this line. So, and it depends. So, how long you're going to be there, right? So they actually did some cost estimates here. So I'm going to stop sharing this. I just want to check something for a second, so please bear with me. And you people have any plans for the weekend?
Work and study.
Work and study. The life of a student, huh? So I just need to log into something here. All right, so just bear with me. Just checking on something. I see people are submitting their first assignment. What I'm checking is, yes, can you people see, all right? Can you people see the case study on chapter number 5? Can you see that? I know I just yes, I was just double checking on that. Can you see in the course and learn? I can see it, but I remember the other day we had a situation where I could see it and I thought I turned on the quiz, but I hadn't. Well, or at least you couldn't see it anyways. So I'm looking at her content. Where did it go?
Is that like, it says
Under
case
assignments.
Right. Yep.
under assignments?
Yep. Under assignment. Case 2. In fact, I think they're actually all turned on.
No, I don't see any case. It just says all the assignments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's it.
Right. Okay. But it says assignment 2 cost estimates.
No, assignment 2 is surveying a newcomer about safety.
In this course?
Workplace. Oh, oopsies, I'm looking at the
Sorry.
wrong.
Okay, that's fine. This is project management. I have to keep track myself. So when I look under grades, when I look under assessments and grades, because I know we've had, I just want to make sure if you can see it.
Yeah, I see assignments 1 through 6.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
there's some stuff in here.
okay. So I just double checked the cost estimates. It's actually a fairly brief assignment in my estimate. So I'm going to give you some class time now to work on it. And what I'd like to suggest to you is this. We're a little bit ahead according to the course schedule, which is fine. I know you have a very busy time, so or lots of things to do. So we'll just keep rolling along. And so let's set a due date for assignment number 2.
You can't click on that assignment though, like that's just under grades. It's not that.
Okay, because I can.
It would be under probably course content where we would find it,
Oh, okay.
but I don't see it on there either.
Okay, because it's showing up. Okay.
I see like case studies 2019 for some reason. And
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, hang on a sec. This is why I'm asking. This the way this is set up, I'm finding very confusing. They've got cases from. It almost looks like it's a work in progress. They're changing from the 7th edition to the 8th, and here this might be the simplest.
well,
This might. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do because I know that. Go ahead.
oh, I found it.
You found it? Where?
It's under course content, and then you go to content, and it's all the way down to fall 2020 case studies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
and
the case study chapter 1 and 2 or the cost estimate?
Cost estimate.
Yeah, and it's a Word document.
Okay.
So can people see that?
Yeah.
It's like 2 pages long,
Yeah.
right? Because I can always email it to you if you want. I know I've had to do that this term, which is fine. So I'm asking, all right? One of the nice things is when they don't put it in the course out when the due dates are, then we can kind of do what we want. So what would fit for your schedule? I can make a suggestion, but I'm also looking for your input.
I don't know. You can just tell us.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter to me because we have so many assignments due at whatever
Sure.
time. So
Okay, let's make it due. Let's make it due October the 9th. All right.
And then is there a drop box for this?
Yep, there is. And I'm going to refresh my memory class because I don't think I wrote it down. When is the case due for the film prioritization? When did I make that due?
September 28th.
Okay, so.
So like Monday.
All right.
I submitted mine. I don't know if you got it.
Yeah.
Mine too.
All right. So what I'm going to do here, why didn't?
I had a question about the first assignment too.
Okay, hang on a sec. Just bear with me.
Sorry.
Okay. What I'm doing, by the way, for your clarity and for mine, is I went in and I edited on the assignment. So now it says assignment 2, October 9th. Okay? that will help keep me on track and hopefully. So go ahead.
Okay, so there was the first assignment that you said we could either do because you had originally assigned something, right? And then you
Correct.
found, okay, so it was either or that we could have submitted, right?
For this course, yeah.
Yeah.
It was you were given a choice of doing case 2.2 or 2.3.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I'm thinking about workplace
I
health.
think you are. I think you are. And that's fine. Yes. This one we kind of lucked out that the one I assigned was the one that or gave you was what they do. But yes, with workplace health and safety, I gave you a choice. And in the upcoming ones, you'll just pick from the list. So.
Okay, because I
Right.
was saying I submitted the workplace health and safety one you said to put it under reflection 1.
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure because yeah.
Yeah, it's a little it's a little different, but yes. So the first one, you can either do the one that was because I know some people after I found out, which was just last week, after I found out that this is what I should have assigned, I'm not going to go back and make you do extra work because I didn't know or it wasn't your responsibility. But anyways, yes. To answer your question, yes, there was choice with that.
Wait, so sorry, the assignment for the workplace safety and whatever,
Right.
which is the interview, we're gonna put in reflection 1, right?
No. Well, you can put it under 1 or 2. Remember that with workplace health and safety, let me type this out. Okay. Okay. There's the assignment 1. You know what? I can't even remember what I let you do. What or
It was a survey to a newcomer.
No, that's assignment number 2.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a Dropbox for that one, Vivi.
where? Oh, I see. It says newcomer do chapter 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So assignment number 2 is surveying the newcomer. That's in sync with what the school was doing. Assignment 1 was the presentation on the various assignment 1 was on the presentation of the various acts on legislation. Remember that when I showed it to you, when I finally got access to it? Or like my brain has gone blank. What did I give you? What was the option I
The
gave you?
guy
before?
died in a plant.
Oh,
and
right.
you were the manager.
There's a case study in the book, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, it was an auto parts company.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Thank you for remembering or reminding me. So from now on, they're all going to be in your Learn now that I can see them. And have
Okay. Sorry, that first assignment, I think I emailed it to you because I couldn't find it in the Dropbox.
Okay. Could you look
You
for the
have it,
Dropbox?
right?
I haven't marked them yet. So if you find the Dropbox.
Well, I can't submit it anymore because it said it closed yesterday, September 24. So I can't submit it anymore.
Okay. Then just put it under one of the others. I'll find it because he's in that course. In that course, he's got like.
Oh, should I just submit it with my assignment too then? The same.
Sure, that's fine. Yep. Why don't
Okay,
you do
I'll
that?
do that. Okay, I'll do that today.
No, that would help me out. I appreciate that.
Okay, I'll submit both of them today.
Sure, sounds good.
Under assignment 2.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, that works for me. I'll find it. I'll accept the email either way because we got such a small group. But if we had 30 students, I say no, I'm not taking 30 emails. So, all right.
I have a question about the interview.
Sure.
Do we actually need to go out and find somebody to ask these questions, or just submit the questions to you?
You should try to find somebody. All right.
I'm in quarantine right now because one of my kids is sick, so I can't go out in the world.
So, well, you don't have to physically go out. I don't know if there's a way you can find somebody on the internet or like talk to a relative or something like that. Is there somebody you can, contact?
What if they know? What if they
What's
know,
that?
like, they're in healthcare? A lot of people that I know, my family is in healthcare, so they're really well versed in WCD.
Then that's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm not, remember, what when we met 4 weeks ago, and my mantra this term has been, I'm here to try and make a difficult situation easier. All right. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's my overriding principle this term. And so if I can make your life a little easier, remember, we talked about some of the assignments. If you want to work on teams, fine. If you don't want to work individually, fine. And so, Jennifer, to answer your question, if there's somebody you can talk to, even if they don't fit the definition of a newcomer, then I'm fine with that. You've done the essence of it. In fact, this afternoon, if you haven't already done it, one of the things we're going to do in workplace health and safety, I thought today, would be we'd start developing some potential questions for you to ask. That's what I have planned for you today, is developing some of those questions. That's the hardest part of the assignment, and getting some thoughts and ideas on what kind of questions I should ask. So if you talk to a healthcare nurse or somebody who, then I'm fine with that. I'm all right.
Okay.
Alrighty. Anything I can do for anybody? Am I making it? Am I supporting you? Am I making this easier? Not easy, but easier to like things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, because we are in week 4. All right. We're about a third of the way through our term. So it's going very quickly. And before you know it, there'll be midterms coming up. And all right.
How do you calculate a direct cost again? I can't find it in my.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So in this particular case, examples of that would be sort of labor hours times the hourly rate. So material units, say kilograms, liters, things like that, times the cost per unit, if they have it. All right. So material units. That's for, and then overhead is, it's usually a percentage. So for example, if I have 100 hours and pay $25 per hour, that would be a cost of $2,500. Then if I have 40 kilograms at $75 per kilogram, that would be $3,000. Overhead is 50% of direct labor costs. So my direct labor is $2,500 times 50% is $1,250. So the total direct is direct labor and direct materials, which is 2,500 plus 3,000 is $5,500. My overhead is 1,250. And then we have general and administrative costs are going to be another 1,500. So direct is 5,500 plus overhead. In this case, the overhead is $12.50 plus general and admin, which is another $1,500. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way. You said, where's he getting these numbers? And I get $82.50. So I just made those numbers up off the top of my head. So I have direct labor. I added in materials. If you have to rent a piece of equipment, that would also be direct. And I can help you now if you've with the case. We can deal with it. Why don't we can deal with, we're ahead. So we can deal with it on Tuesday. If you want to look at it on the weekend. Or I can help you now, whichever works. Like when I look at the cost.
Whatever works.
Okay.
Yeah, either or.
All right. You people are very easygoing. Sometimes, right?
Maybe
Okay.
we can just like go through it right now, so we do it on the weekend or something.
Sure. Well, in this case, all they have is an hourly rate. All right. I'm not going to do the number for you. They have an hourly rate and they have a number of hours. So they have a $40 an hour and they tell you the number of hours.
Yeah.
All right. They don't even bother with general like G&A. So you simply take the hourly rate and multiply it by the number of hours. They have an overhead rate of 40%. So you find out 40% of the number you just calculated, like I did on the screen, and then add it. So you take, as I wrote before, direct labor, dollars. All right, so the direct labor rate times number of hours. That will give you the direct labor costs. And you take that number, so the direct labor costs, and you multiply it by, in this case, 40%. I won't do the numbers for you because I'm giving you the answer. But I'm doing something better. I'm telling you how to get the answer, whether the numbers change or not. And then you just total direct labor costs plus overhead. They didn't even have G&A. They didn't have materials. There is, hang on a sec. If you're looking for it, I'll try and find it in the book here. Where's an example? I'll give you a page to look at in the book. All right. And don't they have one? That's strange. I can't find one. Oh, but actually, when I post, what I'll do for you is I'll post the instructor notes, and that has an example, right? Because I actually don't see an example actually in the book where they do that. And what we'll deal with on Tuesday is we'll do the apportion method, okay? Because it's a bit more advanced. So if you hang on a few minutes, in fact, I'll do it right now before my brain. I put it under, you guys have this, where did it go? That's weird. Locker. You guys have this thing called Locker, right? Under course content.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the instructor notes for I've got chapter 1 and 2 there. I'm going to add chapters 3, 4, and 5. All right. So I'm going to upload those files and I'm going to do it right now. And then on Tuesday, we'll do the apportionment method. Right. And I'll go through that because it's going to take a little longer. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is literally, I don't know how long it'll take you, but a couple minutes to do that calculation. And then the apportionment method is going to take a little longer. So we'll deal with it on Tuesday rather than trying to rush things right now. All right. So just let me find. So look in the. All right. I'm going to do, I've got chapter 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So upload. Okay. Cancel. Save. So would somebody please check for me under course content, locker? Because I'm not, can you see them? Can you see the instructor notes?
No.
Oh, shit.
You can see the locker, right?
Yeah, I think the locker is like for us to load documents in there. I feel like.
Oh, because I've never seen a course that has this locker. I thought that's where I put stuff for you.
I don't know if you can, but every time we use this, it's just to save stuff from like computer, and it's safe in there.
Okay, so
But maybe just put it in the content.
yeah, that's a good suggestion. That's what I'm about to do.
Just like I don't know if you can like make a new like album, not album, but like a new title and then put their note.
Okay. Yes, I can. In fact, that's what I'm going to do right now.
Okay.
All right. It'll be at the very bottom. I could simply call it instructor notes. All right. So new, upload the files. So just bear with me for a sec. One of the things I do like about this system is I can upload multiple files at once. So instructor notes, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So would somebody please look under content? It's at the very bottom. I can move it up if you want, but it's the very last. It'll say instructor notes. It'll show you there's 5 files. When you click on, it should show you chapters 1 through 5.
Yeah, they're in there.
Alrighty. So
Perfect. Now I can see them.
okay, awesome. So what you're gonna have in there, okay? What you're gonna have in there are my notes that I created for myself. All right, or I didn't create for myself. I took them from. So example 1, exercise 1. Sorry, exercise 1 has an example where it calculates the hourly rate, the hours needed, the overhead rate, and shows you exactly how to get the total. That's what you need to do. And in the exercise, it comes out to be 8,400. Your numbers are simply different.
Okay.
Okay. And what we'll deal with on Tuesday, because it deals with it, actually there isn't. Okay, hang on a sec. We'll deal with the apportionment method. And there isn't, we'll go through an example of that because I don't have it in my notes, but we'll go through one. All right. I'll give you some guidance on the one that's in your assignment, because that is the methodology we're going to use. This is not the university model, which I don't like. Right. So in your case, in your second one, there's an apportionment model. And so we'll do that on Tuesday.
Okay.
Alrighty. So we'll see you people in a little bit. So everybody should have access to everything. And we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Okay, see you
All
later.
right. All right. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
See you at, I guess it's 12:30 your time. So just over an hour and a half from now.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
That's good. Bye.